Okay, this is the fourth class where we're discussing the history of Jewish law. Yesterday we spoke about Midrash Halacha. There's much more to talk, but I'm just speaking generally of the books and the genres and the periods within Jewish law. So, as I said, Midrash Halacha, the way this manner of learning, of attaching the text to the commentary, started. The earliest evidence that we have for it is from about the 2nd century before the Common Era, and it went on for about 300-400 years before it was organized in the style of the Mishnah. And so most of the names that we have are from a later period, but they are just repeating traditions that they had from previous scholars. And there are 3 main books that are referred to as Midrash Halacha, but usually you don't hear them in the regular classes. You maybe in the yeshivot, they would some people study them. They are the Sifra, the Mechilta, Sifra and Sifrei. Mechilta literally means tractate or volume, and that's the Midrash Halacha, the halachic commentary on Sefer Shemot. Sifra means the book, which means that that's the most important book, and that's the commentary on Sefer Vayikra. And it's called the book because it is the most voluminous. It's the most detailed discussion, because there are many laws in the book of Vayikra. Then the last one that we know of is Sifrei, which means the books, and that's the Midrash Halacha on Bemidbar and Devarim together in one volume. It's called Sifrei. So we have Mechilta, Sifra, and Sifrei. Those are the 3.
Yesterday I was reading about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they mentioned that he wrote Mechilta and Sifra.
Right. That's why I mentioned the names of the books. The authorship of the books is attributed to the students of Rabbi Akiva. All of what is called the oral law, when it was put in writing, we say that it was by the students of Rabbi Akiva. So the Mechilta is attributed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But we have a little problem there, because, as I mentioned yesterday, there were 2 schools in Midrash Halacha. They had 2 different opinions, 2 different approaches to the text, which have major consequences, and that is the question of how meticulous is your analysis of the text. When you look at the words in the pasuk, do you expect the author to write everything in what we call legalese, like a legal language that is very dry and just delivers the necessary information? Or is it written more like a story in the way, in the vernacular, the way you tell people in a non-formal conversation? So here, there's a major debate between 2 rabbis. Both lived in the 2nd century, at around 100 of the Common Era. That's Rabbi Ishmael, famous Rabbi Ishmael, and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said that every letter in the legal text of the Torah, not the story part, the narrative is a different issue. But when they look at the halachot, Rabbi Akiva says every letter, every word, mainly is there for a reason. That's, remember that we discussed the Midrash of Moshe Rabbeinu, who goes up to heaven and he sees Rabbi Akiva teaching tons or mountains of halachot on the crowns of the letters. That came from that period. So Rabbi Akiva said every letter in the Torah is there for a reason, or every word in the halachic part of the Torah is there for a reason. I could learn something from it. So if the Torah says that if you see a lost animal, hashev teshivenu lo, you shall return it to the owner. Rabbi Akiva says, why did the Torah write return, you shall return? Hashev teshivenu. Just write hashivenu lo, or hashivea lo. One word, you could save one word. The reason the Torah repeats it, he says, is that even if this animal got lost 100 times, you still have the obligation to return it to the owner. Rabbi Ishmael says, no, I'm sorry. Dibrat Torah kilshon bnei adam. This is the manner, this is the way people speak. Back then, not today. I mean, if you try to board a bus in Israel and the driver says there's no room, and that and you'll say, "So they'll kick you out." I mean, they don't care about you repeating the words. It's not the way people talk. But back then, that was the vernacular. That's how people spoke. So they say, "Hashef teshivenu lo." Rabbi Yishmael says, it means, yeah, you have an obligation to return it. But also use logic. If you see that the owner of this animal is careless, he has a broken fence and he never fixed it, after you return the animal one time, that's it, you're exempt. It's his responsibility. You don't have to run in the field searching for his animals. Hakem takim imo. If the animal is overburdened and it now crouches under its burden, the Torah says, you must help the owner to reload the animal and make it get up. Rabbi Akiva says, afilu me'apa'amim. You reloaded it and it fell and again and again. Rabbi Yishmael says, do it once, do it twice. You see that it's impossible, you walk away. That's it. Now, that's a major discrepancy when you come to analyze the text. Every word you look at, you ask yourself, is this written there to teach me a message, to deliver a certain message or a certain law, or it's just there to make the text more readable? And you realize that if you would have gone through the Tanakh, through the Torah, and you would remove all the words that Rabbi Akiva claims are not necessary, you wouldn't be able to read the text. It would not be a pleasant text to read. And remember the story I told here of the man who had a fish store and he put a sign up, fresh fish sold here, and eventually he had to remove all the words because people said, obviously it's fresh, you don't need to write that. Obviously you sell fish, we can smell it. Obviously you sell them and you don't give it as a gift. And obviously it's here. So why do you need the sign? So if the Torah would only be about the laws, and the whole Shema that we read would be summed up in one pasuk, put on tefillin. Right? That's it. Why do you need put on tefillin and tzitzit? Oh, maybe put on tefillin, tzitzit, write mezuzah, and keep all the mitzvot. Why do you need 3 chapters to tell us that? So that's the approach of Rabbi Yishmael. But Rabbi Akiva says no. The Torah, we could learn its divine text, and we learn something from every word. Then we have another phenomenon that is interesting in the Torah, and that is that sometimes you have a whole section repeated. The laws of Pesach, as I mentioned yesterday, appear in Shemot, in several places, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim, and some of them are repetitious. Why do you have to tell me the Shabbat, this is what you bring, this is the... So, Rabbi Akiva says, the repetition, if you have 100 words in the original text and 102 words in the repetition, you don't only learn from the 2 extra words, you learn something from every word that was repeated. There's another element to learn. So, that will result as a much more hefty volume of halacha produced by Rabbi Akiva. Whereas Rabbi Yishmael says, לא כל פרשה שנאמרה ונשנתה, לא נשנתה אלא בשביל דבר שנתחדש בה. Meaning, just as a human being could tell you something, for example, the principal would tell the children in the school, those are the regulations, and then the next day he issues another pamphlet and he says, those are the regulations. And it's the exact same thing as yesterday with one addition. So, Rabbi Yishmael says the principal republished it for the one edition. That's it. Just learn that there are no other new laws there. Rabbi Akiva will say, I will now reinterpret every law because it was repeated. Because otherwise there's no need to repeat it. So here again, this is the debate between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, whether you take everything as a pure legal text or it's something that is supposed to be communicable to the people. And I mean, it's interesting because practice shows that if you look at the history of Jewish religion, people adhere more to the laws of Judaism, and probably because it was written in such a balanced, flexible way. So we remember some of the text, some of the narrative, and the text also is we can relate to it. Nobody remembers legal texts. Even lawyers don't read them. I mean, they have to because of it's their profession. They have to go back and make sure that they see every word, every letter. But we remember large portions of the Torah by heart. People who read them regularly read the parasha. Then there's a third difference, not as essential, but also important between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Akiva, and that is how to interpret the Hebrew of the Torah whether it's telling a story, or meaning giving options, or making a commandment. One example, the Torah in the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar speaks about the Isha Sota, a woman. It's called the deviate woman. A woman whose husband suspects that she's having an affair with another man. So it's not clear exactly from the text of the Torah how does she get to this point. But one pasuk, one verse the Torah says at the beginning of the story is this: Ve'ish ki ta'avor alav ruach kin'a vekineh et ishto vehi nitma, or avar alav ruach kin'a vekineh et ishto vehi lo nitma. If he has this, I would call it spirit of jealousy, or mood of jealousy, and he is jealous of his wife, vekinet ishto could be understood in two different ways. According to Rabbi Ishmael, he says it's a story. The Torah is telling you this is what could happen. It happens that the husband and wife don't get along, and the husband now suspects his wife of having an affair. And if that happens, then this is what you should do. This is how Rabbi Ishmael was more into the, taking the non-formal, casual style of the Torah. This is his interpretation. Rabbi Akiva says no. The husband must act with jealousy. So Rabbi Ishmael says, "V'kinet ishto reshut," optional. You're allowed to do that if you wish. Rabbi Akiva says, "Hova." You must do that. So this is just to demonstrate that between the two schools, they branched out to many, many differences in the interpretation of halakha. For example, now something that has to do with the period of the Sefirah of the Omer. Rabbi Akiva, the morning of the Omer, and the story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had no 24,000 disciples who studied Torah under him. We know that he had 5 important disciples that immediately studied with him: Rabbi Nehemiah, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Shimon. There were 5 people. Maybe another 100 that we don't know by name. 24,000 that we don't know by name doesn't make sense. The true story is that he had thousands of followers that he recruited as soldiers for the war against the Romans. How did he do that? How do you get tens of thousands of people from? He took some from Israel and some from around the world. He traveled all over the world. He was in Rome, in Africa, in Asia, in Asia Minor. He was in different places. And what he did, he converted people. He was a charismatic leader. He convinced them to convert to Judaism, to join the cause and fight against the Romans as Jews. How do you convert thousands of people? If you sit in Bedin with each and every one of them, you'll do 10 cases a day. But Rabbi Akiva, what he did, he wanted the masses to convert. So either he tailored his halakha to that, or first he studied and he reached halachic conclusion and he determined that it's okay. So in 2 things he differed from the other rabbis. One is that they said that it's 3 issues that all are related to that. According to the other rabbis, if a non-Jew and a Jewish woman have a child together, the child is a 100% kosher Jew. According to Rabbi Akiva, the child is a mamzer. Mamzer, not in the sense of the English bastard, but rather, meaning which is only one who is born out of wedlock, but rather one who cannot marry into the Jewish people. This is a harsh measure. Why would Rabbi Akiva do that? Because he wants to encourage people to convert. If a woman knows that if she has a child by a non-Jewish man, her child will be barred from being part of the Jewish people, she will not do that. But she would look for means, for a way for this man to convert. Now, on the other hand, the other rabbis said that a Kohen cannot marry a convert. A woman who converted to Judaism cannot marry a Kohen. And their basis in halakha is very is questionable. It's frail. I'm not going to say it now. Rabbi Akiva says no. Kohen can marry a convert. So two extremes. On one hand, he says that the child of a regular of any Jewish woman and a non-Jew is a mamzer. On the other hand, he says Kohen can marry a convert. That's part of his effort to encourage people to convert. He says even if you're a Kohen, you can still marry a convert. He himself, Rabbi Akiva, according to one of the legends in the Gemara, after his first wife Rachel died, married a convert, the wife of Turnus Rufus, who was the Roman governor of Yerushalayim. Then the third thing that Rabbi Akiva says, which is not followed today, la halacha, is that if a person converts to Judaism without any witnesses, without any bedin, he just comes and says, "Gayarti bari leben atzmi," right? He comes from North Korea. No rabbis there, as far as I know. He says, "I want to be a Jew. I'm a Jew. How are you a Jew? I did the conversion by myself." So Rabbi Akiva says, "Im hilel Shabbat hayav mita." If that man now transgressed Shabbat, he's going to be punishable. Meaning, in other words, I accept him. So this is an example of how when you take a certain path of halakha, it could create a completely different worldview. Otherwise, we're against it. But the interesting thing is that today we follow the method of Rabbi Akiva, even though no one said that officially his method is the one that we take, but the analytic tools of the other school, that's another issue. So I'm not going to get into now. So, but after the period of the Mishnah of the Midrash Halacha, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi put together the Mishnah, and one last thing before we proceed to the Mishnah is this: it seems like the idea of having a mahaloket, of having a dispute between the rabbis, at a certain point, the rabbis understood that it's good to have a dispute. That if you try to create a monolithic view, where you say everybody must follow the same rule, this is not going to work. Today, we lost it. Today, you look, for example, the Orthodox Union, the OU, or the other streams, each one of them wants a doctrine that says your synagogue could be part of the movement only if you have mechitza, the division between the men's and the women's section that gets up to here. And these are the people who can be members, and this is where you can eat. Everything is controlled. The early rabbis realized it's not going to work. You have to leave some flexibility. Where do we see that? In Masechet, in the Mishnah, there's a discussion of the first mahloket that we ever find, and that was regarding the question whether you could send your sacrifice if you live outside Israel. Can you send your sacrifice with a messenger, or do you have to come by yourself? And the mahloket was called somchin or en somchin. Like, do you have to be present and put your hands on the korban and confess, or someone else can do it for you? And the Gemara says there were 5 zugot, Rabbi Yosef ben Yoezer, Rabbi Yosef ben Yohanan, there were, one of them was the head of the Sanhedrin, one of them was the head of the rabbinical court. One of them says yes, one of them said no, one of them said yes. It's almost as if they want to keep a mahloket in place. They want it to be a dispute. Finally, there was the last couple of those people disputing, Hillel, right, and Menahem. We know of Hillel and Shammai, but the Mishnah says no, there was a different couple, Hillel and Menahem. Hillel said, no, there's no need to be present. Menahem said the same thing, he agreed with him. Oh, finally we're okay. But then the Mishnah says, no, we have a problem. Menahem was drafted to the army, and now he was replaced by Shammai, and Shammai says, I disagree with you, Hillel, you have to be present. So it's obvious that the Mishnah says we want to keep the dispute alive. Why is that? Because they had a specific problem. The minority of Jews lived in Israel. Majority of Jews lived outside Israel, mainly in Babylonia, but also in all the in the provinces around them. And also from a financial point of view, the community outside Israel was more prosperous. So now, what do you want more? Do you want to encourage Aliyah, to get people to Israel, or to get money from abroad to support the Israeli population? It's almost the same problem as it is today. Today, not so much, because finally Israel is more stable financially, but still it relies on donations of the diaspora. So what do? When you have, let's say, a billionaire who lives outside Israel, right? You make him do aliyah, he's going to liquidate his business, he's not going to be able to donate that much money as he does when he lives there. Do you say, Mr. So-and-so, stay where you are and sit on money, or do you say, we want you to make aliyah? What do? One choice is not, you can't issue the same ruling for everyone. What did the rabbis do? They say this: if we say you must come with the korban, then a lot of people will not be able to do it, and they will not send their korbanot, they will not send their donations, and we're losing that influx of income, of money that comes into Israel. On the other hand, if we say clearly you don't have to come, then they will stop coming to visit, and we're going to lose the connection with them. So they decided we're going to leave it hanging. Some say yes, some say no. If you live outside Israel, you have a choice. Maybe I'll follow Hillel and just send money and a korban, or I'll follow Shammai and I'll come myself. And that shows us the importance of, so anyone who tries to sort of unify halakha and make the same rule for everyone is bound to fail. And we see it today with how we split to thousands of fragmented movements.